Got to get over the hump. Blah, 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 blah. Got to get over the hump. Welcome to this lesson on a Western interpretation of the transverse polar modalities of the global balance method. The first slide answers the question, why are these modalities labeled transverse polar? Next, the principle of using basic nominal sums to label each individual modality within the category is covered in brief, along with a diagram of each mode and its color coding. Finally, all six modalities within the category are presented through all three nominal sums and both chiral expressions, along with a brief series of notes on the iterative nature of the pedagogy in the context of the chiral expressions. Slide 1, Nomenclature. Why transverse polar? In keeping with the spirit of simplicity, there are two basic points to remember. First, transverse polar modalities treat illnesses across the transverse plane, such that hand treats foot and foot treats hand. Second, transverse polar modalities are best used to treat illnesses with acute periodic thermodynamic deviations. In this set of modalities, the vessels used for treatment address thermodynamic conditions that are prone to express themselves at certain times of day. Determining the time of day for which a fever or chill expresses itself most fully will reveal which vessels in the mode require treatment. By stimulating vessels within the mode that sit on the side opposite to the side of the indications, the clinician should be able to implement an effective treatment on behalf of the client. For the purpose of reinforcing the academic values given, a reading of the description behind the motives for the nomenclature will be provided here. The caption for the diagram found on the lower left-hand side reads as follows. In the transverse polar context, a treatment is applied to meridians on one side of the transverse axis or another. The meridians within the mode demonstrate a polar variation of their circadian thermodynamics, such that the warming vessel's respiratory activity will be at its peak during a period that is the polar opposite of the cooling vessel's circadian peak, occurring approximately 12 hours apart. The bullet points on the right provide the same information previously given from a slightly altered but entirely equivalent perspective. They are as follows. All axial modalities treat conditions with the side of the axis opposite to the site of the indication or injury. Transverse polar modes do this across the transverse plane, using the hand vessels to treat the foot vessels and the foot vessels to treat the hand vessels. In the transverse polar context, cooling and warming vessels within the mode exhibit their peak respiratory activity during periods of polar opposition, i.e., 12 hours apart. Basic treatments are then applied to heal fevers or chills by treating the vessels on the side opposite the site of indication or injury. In general, the modality is named for the periods of polar opposition expressed between pairs of channels sharing the same thermodynamic functions. Transverse polar modes have the potential to treat temperature deviations of acute periodic expression. Slide 2, Basic Nominal Sums. Transverse polar 22, 26, and 30. The three modalities shown here are some of the more common patterns used in treating clinical complaints. Setting the semantics of their physiological expression aside, this material will provide a valid nomenclature useful for categorizing the modes themselves and their orientation within the scope of the global balance method. Proceeding from left to right, the transverse polar modalities are composed as follows. Transverse polar 22 consists of the pericardium, colon, stomach, and kidney vessels, labeled for their nominal equation 9 plus 2 plus 3 plus 8 equals 22. Transverse polar 26 consists of the lung, small intestine, bladder, and liver vessels, labeled for their nominal equation 1 plus 6 plus 7 plus 12 equals 26. Transverse polar 30 consists of the heart, triple burner, gallbladder, and spleen vessels, labeled for their nominal equation 5 plus 10 plus 11 plus 4 equals 30. Slide 3, Chiral Expression. The above diagrams are presented here to complete the exposition of the subject within the context of this particular modality. Understanding the chiral assignment of left or right to any one given mode in the transverse polar context is simply a matter of determining on which side of the body the odd-numbered channels are being assigned. Greater detail regarding the chiral expression of the imaged axial modalities as a whole will be handled in a separate video.